And former Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan will be given an official funeral on Thursday. The Ahmed Kathrada Foundation saying that Gordhan will be cremated later in a private ceremony. But there's been, of course, an outpouring of tributes and reaction to his passing. Speaker of the National Assembly, Thoko Didiza, is joining us now to reflect on his life and legacy. Good evening to you, Speaker, and thank you so much for your time this evening. Firstly, I mean, of course, you would have been working with him in cabinet, and condolences to you, and definitely, in politics as well, and you would have shared a lot of moments with him. Let's talk about your reaction to his passing.
Firstly, I would like to actually send the condolences of our parliament to his family, his wife, the children, but also his friends, comrades, and his movement, the African National Congress.
And when it comes to, thinking about his life in Parliament, for example, he was among those. Post-1994, he's in Parliament. It was a time, of course, of much celebration in South Africa, but much optimism and, of course, a lot of reflections about the road ahead. Let's talk about his contribution in that regard.
I must say that Comrade Pravin was one of those first cohort of the members of the African National Congress, but also of the Constitutional Assembly, whose first task was to actually draft the final constitution of the country, which was finally signed in 1996. I must say that a number of those, members of parliament had to do a tough job to ensure that in drafting the final constitution, they actually consult as widely as possible in our society so that what we have as our supreme law of the land would encapsulate the wishes of our people. And I think we owe it to those first generation who really gave us a template from which we would work. Obviously, as we face challenges of the country, there will always be a need to improve where necessary. But also, apart from being the first cohort in the National Assembly, Comrade Pravin, as we know, was one of our first in terms of the democratic South Africa who headed the South African Revenue Services. Institution that we know today was really built on strong foundations to ensure that we as a country are able to receive revenues that will assist in the contribution towards financing the work of our government.
And of course, you would have shared moments with him in cabinet as well. Talk to us about some of the light-hearted moments that you would have shared with him.
I must say that I have known Pravin in my early years, and I'm sure he was still young, even though older than me, when we were activists in KwaZulu-Natal. We used to meet in a communal center, what was known then as Diaconia. And this is where a majority of those comrades were able to envision what the kind of South Africa that we all want, obviously using the frameworks that had been developed before by our forebears, such as the Freedom Charter, but also the Constitution of the ANC, which was one of the oldest and still is organization that actually made sure that we work towards the liberation of our country, as well as contributing to the liberation of other member states in our continent, and participate in global institutions, as well as ensuring that many of those young activists at the time are able to appreciate the responsibility that they hold in working towards a liberated South Africa. Today, when one reflects back, you think of the times at which we, as you say, working together in cabinet, but also in parliament. One thing you would not doubt about Comrade Pravin was his commitment towards transformation of our country. You wouldn't doubt his, views that even if he might differ with you, but it came from a good heart. And I must say that very robust engagement at times, but also a very soft side of him. Some of us used to call him uncle, because indeed he would, in my view, show those qualities of a fatherly figure, concerned also about his comrades and his friends' lives in general beyond the politics.
And of course, you know, a life like his is one that is lauded by some. I was in conversation earlier on with ESCOM board chair Mteto Nyati, who was talking about his commitment and the support that he gave them when they were, you know, starting with their tenure and wanting to turn around ESCOM, and really just making sure that they are supported even at a personal level as the board members, and for him as an ESCOM board chair. And then, of course, you see what a political party like the Economic Freedom Fighters are saying. They're saying that he sold out and created a crisis when he was a Public Enterprises Minister, and for them, there's nothing to cry about. What do you say to that as you reflect?
You know, I always say in the Zulu, there's a phrase that says, "Akukho soka lingenasipho." What it means is that all of us in our lives, there will be moments where you would have certain instances where you might not done the best. You might have also touched other people in a way that might have created discomfort. But we also must appreciate that Comrade Pravin, like many other South Africans, had made their contributions in actually liberation of this country when it was not fashionable. They took the risks. They actually made contribution towards building our country, sometimes sacrificing family life in ensuring that all of us work towards the good of our country. And wherever we are, we do get responsibilities. Sometimes those responsibilities are difficult. Sometimes they are tough. You have to take certain decisions, which might not at all times be those decisions that might be palatable to all. And we must also appreciate that when you act as a minister in cabinet, or when you act as a member of any board or any other institution, you work within a collective.
And certainly, of course, as you reflect today on that life, as you say, of course, thank you so much, Speaker, for your time. And really, a lot of reaction continues then to pour in following the passing of former Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan, Speaker of the National Assembly, then Thoko Didiza. And we'll continue then to bring you more voices on this particular story.